Hi, hello, and welcome to LearnStroke IAS classes by Arjun. You're listening to the editorial summary. Sorry for the small delay because there was a small delay in uploading the videos. We are completely coming up with this and we will be balancing those videos in the coming sessions. So don't worry. So, welcome to class number 20 with me, Arjun Shankar. Let's discuss the important editorials of the day. And in the meanwhile, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe to LearnStroke IAS classes by Arjun, and please do press the bell icon to receive all the videos in your timeline. So let's quickly check which are the important areas that we have to discuss. In number one, the article was regarding the Bhutan-China relationship, GS paper 2. We need to know how is the international relationship between Bhutan, China, and also know about the map and what is the equation of India in this regard. Why is India an important party in this? We have to know it in detail. Next is moving on. The next important article talks about women labor force participation. So again, very important from GS paper 1, role of women, even GS paper 2, welfare schemes, even GS paper 3, Indian economy. So this is something that we have to know, the most important points. And an article regarding unhealthy India. What about the unhealthy India and some of the challenges of urbanization? We need to get all the important points regarding that. And next is, as usual, every time we have something called white phosphorus warfare. In the Israel-Palestine war, it has been alleged that the Israel is using the white phosphorus. And in this modern warfare and combat, can you use white phosphorus? Is it good to use that? We'll have to find it out. And the next one and the last article is regarding the Gazan economy or the Palestinian economy and how dependent is Palestine on Israel. So during the war, we get a lot of stories from different perspective, but let's focus on the economy of Palestine. It's a very good points and statistics that we can definitely relate in this. So let's quickly move on to the first important editorial is regarding GS paper 2 international relationship. And this clearly brings us to an equation. We have China on this side. So China on this side and you have Bhutan on this side. And at this time, you have India. So you should see that there is going to be an international diplomacy between China and Bhutan. And you should know that it's been more than 7 years that Bhutan is not having a good relationship between China. So this is something that we have to remember. So after a long time, China and Bhutan are resuming the discussions again. So in this context, as a country, India, what are India's concern and why? What are the few things that India should keep in mind? This article completely talks about this, and we need to also get a real good clarity about the map of China, the map of Bhutan, especially. Where is Bhutan? Which all Indian states share borders with Bhutan? These are all the questions that we can expect for the civil services preliminary. So fair enough. So let's quickly move on to the article and apply the IAS filter and take the important points here. Let's take it. So first of all, Bhutan's foreign minister, you can say Tandi Dorje, made an unprecedented visit to China. So they visited China, and the first ever visit by a Bhutanese foreign minister. Something that you can remember because it's significant because Bhutan and China do not have a diplomatic relationship for so many years. So this is point number one. They don't have a good relationship between so many years. Please remember that. And let's positive progress in talks. Definitely, and there is a positive substantive progress happening, and both the countries have signed. Whenever there is two countries coming together, they always try and sign a lot of treaties and documents which benefits both the countries. In this case also they have done this. They have signed a cooperation agreement to establish a new joint technical team for boundary delimitation and demarcation. Very important. The key word is boundary delimitation and demarcation. So this time between Bhutan and China, it's all about boundary and demarcation. So there is a boundary like this, which are the proper areas. So there is a delimitation. Just like in constitution, we have heard about whenever in the election you delimit a constituency, you redraw the constituencies. There is a delimitation. So definitely India will be concerned at this. When there is going to be a boundary demarcation, definitely India will have a concern. Let's discuss. Let's take a look at this. Let's check the map. We have this India completely going through Bangladesh, and in this you can see this is the point of India. where we can say, and definitely on this side we have Nepal. So always understand Bangladesh is actually in between this, and there is a small region that goes through this. And most often, what happens in UPSC prelims exam, this is what I have seen in my experience when I ask my students to find out. Most often they are not able to mark the northeastern states. They do not know where is Meghalaya, where is Assam, where is Manipur, where is Tripura, where is Meghalaya, where is Mizoram. You do not know where to mark this. So it's very important that you please check the map and at least find out all the northeastern states and where are they located. And this is number one. And which of the northeastern states are having international boundaries with other countries. So this is also important for the prelims exam. So please, this is the learning that we have to learn. And look at Bhutan. So definitely it has got the borders with China, and Bhutan is actually this place. And on the left side, you can have Nepal on this side, and India definitely on this side. On this side, you have Bangladesh. So have a clarity on this map. Very, very important for the exam. And exactly, China is calling for a diplomatic relationship. So both the countries are going to establish diplomatic relationship. Again, second point. And India's concerns and Bhutan's assurances. So where is India coming and fitting into this place? India has got a special relationship. Accepted. India has got a very special relationship with Bhutan and is concerned about the possibility of Bhutan establishing a diplomatic relationship. So again, this can be one interest because India is supporting Bhutan a lot. But whenever this is a race actually between China and India, when you learn international relations, this is a race that you normally find out whether it is Bhutan or whether it is Nepal or whether it is Sri Lanka, whether it is Myanmar, which all countries, India is having a relationship with all these countries and China is also having a relationship with all these countries. So it's an international race. Who will help the countries more? When India helps Nepal, definitely Nepal will listen to India more. So if China is actually trying to help Nepal, India gets upset, or when India helps Nepal, China gets upset. So it's the international relations. It is the international competition. It's for survival, and very well, when Bhutan is being helped by China, definitely India will have its concern, especially regarding the boundary agreement. And the Bhutan Prime Minister recently indicated that the progress is being made towards boundary delineation and demarcation with China. So they are also redrawing the boundaries between China and Bhutan. So and such a Bhutan Prime Minister said when Bhutan is creating a border demarcation with China, Bhutan is assuring that it will not allow, it will not take away India's interest, because they are fearing that the Chinese forces might come into Bhutan, and India definitely shares a border with Bhutan. So definitely, what if China comes into the border of Bhutan, and when China is helping Bhutan, definitely China will have that capacity to come near India via Bhutan. So these are all the concerns that they have. So let's go into and India's interest. So if you look at the map of India, the one interest that India has is India wants to keep away China. That's it. When Bhutan is open to China, China will come to Bhutan, and then it's very near. And India wants to keep away China from the southern Doklam ridges. So please, find out where is Doklam. Very important. It has been appearing in the news, which overlook the Siliguri corridor in India. So very, very important. Where is this Siliguri corridor? Let's quickly understand. It's called the Chicken Neck. It's also called the Chicken's Neck. The Siliguri corridor. It's a narrow strip of land. You can just see in this picture. It's a narrow strip of land in the Indian state of West Bengal. Point number one. It is strategically important area. Point number two. And it connects the northeastern states of India to the rest of the country. You can see this. This corridor connects the northeastern states of India to the mainland of India. I think this is very clear. It is one thing that connects the northeastern part into the rest of India. It joins together. Here it goes like this. And it connects, and the Siliguri corridor is situated between Nepal and Bangladesh, and it's West Bengal. And it is the only land route that connects the northeastern states of India, including Assam, to the Indian mainland. So they're very, very important. Try and know what is Siliguri corridor. It connects northeast, and also it's between Nepal and Bangladesh. So this is a concern. When you have the border demarcation, China may delineate the borders between China. So what happens is, again, when it demarcates border, again it is very near to India. So this is why India is having a concern in this. When they will demarcate like this, China will come closer to Bhutan, and this can even, India is concerned about these regions. India is concerned about these regions that is actually in between the border. This is the main concern of India, because China can come closer, and when you come closer, it has got an impact on the Siliguri corridor, which is a chicken's neck. So this is the main concern of India in China-Bhutan relationship. And yes, so this is something that I've already told. India should approach the boundary negotiations with a better understanding of Bhutan's perspective, and must consider both countries' interests before finalizing any agreement. So Bhutan has said that we will definitely we definitely understand India's concern, and we will keep that in mind before signing an agreement with China. So this is what they have said. And let's take a question. What are the key concerns and red lines for India in the context of Bhutan's engagement with China, and how does India, how should, and how India should deal with this? So when you get this question, when you write in the mains examination, you should write the main vocabulary or the key points. So even you can draw the images that I've just given you. You can even draw that image and be ready for that. Okay, that is good. And let's go quickly to the next important article is labor force market and women. Very important from GS paper 1, role of women in India. GS paper 2, a lot of welfare mechanisms. GS paper 3, Indian economy and how is it contributing to the economy. So 3 papers in one go, women. And so you need to know what is labor force market participation. So let's quickly apply the IAS filter, and let's go to the important positioning. So before understanding what is women labor force participation, what is this term? Let's understand the important terms and let's quickly go. Number 1, women's labor force participation is simply the percentage of women in a country or a region who are actively engaged in the workforce. So just imagine this is the total workforce. So you can see that in a country like India, this much section, the shaded region that I'm trying to draw, is that this is the total workforce in India, and this shaded region is the women people who are working. So the women's labor participation simply is a percentage of women in a country or region who are actively engaged in workforce. So this much out of 100, this shaded region are the women who are actually involved in working. I think that's clear. So this is women labor participation force, and you can say that definitely this is very much linked to the Indian economy and world economy also, and that is something that you know. So you know that this is the workforce. Imagine that this is the workforce, and this shaded region is the women, and this is the total workforce. Just imagine this is the total workforce. So whatever you do, this creates productivity. Let's create the workforce will definitely create the workforce creates productivity, and this is productivity here, and productivity will lead to more income, will create to more income, and this income can definitely help in nation building. This income will help in nation building, will help the nation, and will add India's GDP, and this will also add to a lot of exports. This will also add to a lot of exports. So when this is an exports, this will support the international community, or this is the rest of the world. This is the rest of the world. So definitely the workforce. This is this deconstruction of how workforce and productivity, income, exports, and everything will help the world. And in turn, you will see that in the contribution of the world, India will definitely stand as a leader. The more India contributes to this, India will become a leader. So I think you know this clearly. So that means at this was the first equation, and this was the last equation. So if India wants to be a world leader in this, one thing that you have to understand is very simple. India needs to increase its workforce productivity. When the workforce is better, it will create more productivity, and it will create more income, it will create more exports, it will add to nation's GDP and GNP, everything. It will add to country's growth. So in that growth process, we should, this is the key question, in this growth prospect, India should make sure that not only men, women should also be a part of this development. This is the ultimate thing. And when there is more women development happening, definitely women's role in the development and making India will also be increased. And this article clearly say that the women's workforce participation is extremely low, and there are some lot of income inequality, many other inequality that is existing, where it is not making women to work for it. So we need to make this a higher participation. That means this is the participation, we need to increase the share of women working. So this will be the long term impact. I think you got this is the summary of the article, and let's take the important points. And let's take the most important points. And you can see that a low level of women's participation has been significant consequence on women's bargaining power. Key point that, in this article, please try to pick out the vocabulary. Mains vocabulary. What do you mean by mains vocabulary? Get the key important points. Get the key points. Okay, key points. If there is a low participation of women, definitely women's bargaining power, or the power of women to control the system, is actually going down. So this is an important thing. And the participation of women in the global labor force is very low, with estimates showing a global female labor force participation rate of 47.3% in 2022. So almost imagine, this is the workforce, it is less than half. It is just less than half as the women. And in a country like India, there has been a decline in the women's labor force participation, hindering growth and potential. So again, even the globally and from India perspective, the women's participation is actually very low. I think you got this clear points. And next is something that we have to check is impact of marriage on women's labor force participation. So again, in India, you know that marriage has one thing which has made women not a key participant, because when you see in Indian system, when you get married, there are a lot of new responsibilities, and that is the reason why women is not able to escape from that. That is actually making women weak. So married women, you can see decrease in labor force participation because of the non-family support. They're not supporting. And you can see that is increased family obligations, limited education. Even the family does not have education, family obligation, and societal disapproval in India, where people believe that after marriage women should not work. It is the duty of the men to work. Women is only concerned with raising the children, taking care of family, cleaning, and all the jobs. So it is only women who should do this attitude. The societal attitude is a big problem, and that is a big crime also. So that is the reason why women are not able to work. So institute of marriage is amplifying domestic obligations and imposes social and cultural barriers to the workforce. So all these are important. So please remember, why there is a decrease: limited educational attainment, increased family obligation, social disapproval of women working outside the home, and social and cultural issues. So all these are barriers. So please remember. And even you can say religious aspects, caste aspects, geographical aspects, household wealth, societal norms influence, they all influence women's work. Just imagine caste, your religion, your geography, where the place where you live in, or the wealth that you have, and the social norms, everything is actually creating barriers. They are the barriers so that women are not entering the labor market. So next is regarding the even gender disparity. Definitely we have gender disparity in career choices. Women do not have that much of a right to career choices, which India needs to break. And you can also see economic impact and solution. So the non-participation of married women, how can we overcome this problem? This is the next key point. How can we overcome this problem? That means the women should be given more opportunities, in the sense, let's take out in initiatives like national crush scheme. Women have children, so they need to take care of the children. So make sure you give proper facilities like national crush scheme, where creating women friendly work settings. Very good. Number one, secure transportation, free secure transportation, where they are safely transported, and part-time job opportunities, giving them part-time job opportunities, and more flexibility in working. So all these are national care scheme like women-friendly work settings, more secure transportation, part-time jobs, will everything add to better labor force participation. So these are the things that we should be looking forward and working. So what is the relationship between women's labor force participation and economic prospects? Is a good question that you can write. How has women's labor force participation evolved globally, and what are the specific trends? This can be also written. And what societal and cultural factors affect the labor force participation of married women, and what are some potential solutions to address the issues? Very, very important. So these questions carry different ideas. So definitely, I think you can answer these questions. So quickly moving on to the next is an unhealthy urban India. So this clearly talks about the issue of urbanization. So definitely GS paper 1, urbanization and the challenges. Again, GS paper 2, welfare and a lot of important things. And GS paper 2, health. It talks about the health of this. And definitely GS paper 3, economy. What are the important economical aspects regarding this? So covering 1, 2 and 3 papers. So this in short is the summary that I'm going to draw here. Please check this out. So imagine that this is the rural and this is the urban. So you know that there is a rural population and there is an urban population. So a lot of people migrated from rural area to urban area. So story is this. And why do people go from rural area to urban area? Because there are better opportunities. There are better opportunities. So when a lot of people get into urban areas, what are the challenges of urban area? You will see that urban areas are small areas. So definitely there are a lot of people. So it's very densely populated. Imagine that this is a town, this is a city in rural, and this is a city in urban. You see that rural population is like this. There is a lot of space, but in see that urban population is very, 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 very densely populated. In 1 square kilometer, you can see lot of people staying in this. So there is a big crowding here. And when crowding happens, what are the important challenges that we can note here? We have a shortage of water, and there is going to we have a shortage of food, we have a shortage of electricity, and again the challenges of waste management, uh, the concept of pollution. When there are more people and when there are more vehicles, there will be pollution. There will be big time pollutions here. So what happens is when everything is happening like this will end. People do not have time also. When people do not have pollution, they do not have time. So this affects their eating habits and diet. You can see this also affects their dieting habits. They eat whatever they like. So they eat a lot of junk food, and this in turn creates what is happening as, so this junk foods again will create another important aspect like their health issues, or the cardiac issues, diabetics, cardiac issue, again diabetics. So what, just imagine how much all these points should be written. So just imagine a small migration that started from rural areas. It's very thick. The density of population is very high, and no water, no adequate water, no adequate food, no electricity, no waste management, heavy pollution, no time, and heavy toxicity. The rivers, everything is toxic. And what happens is this in turn, when they're on no time, no diet, no proper diet. When no proper diet, you eat junk foods, you eat anything. So bad health, and what happens is cardiac issue, diabetes. So what happens is it you become diseased. Disease means you don't think that you die. It's not the disease that you die. You are become more prone to disease. When I said disease, you might think that you died. No, it's disease prone. So unhealthy. This is the unhealthy. So this cycle is actually discussed in this article. Now let's quickly apply the IS filter, and I'll tell you the most important points right away. Okay. So let's quickly get the most important. So India's urban population is projected to reach 675 million people. Just imagine. So when it happens, it will become the second largest urban population in the world by 2035. Just imagine, these are all the challenges of urbanization. And it is failing to meet the health, environment, and equity targets for its residents, something that we already know. I think you already know this thing. And what are important health risks? The level of air, again pollution, air and noise pollution, big time issues. No limited green space. You don't have green space, park, etc. And adequate access to sidewalks and park. it's so much crowded, you don't have this. And outdated transportation systems. When you have outdated transportation system, what happens? There is a lot of pollution and limited access to nutritional food and exposure to toxic chemicals. So all this is something that we discussed here. And there is a high risk of cardiometabolic diseases when there is no physical activity. I said people do not have time. They are busy making money. They are very busy making money. So they ignore the health. And that is one thing important. So very high rate of heart diseases. So these are all the challenges of urbanization that we can do. So this, how urbanization contributes to unhealthy. I've just drawn the picture. So transforming the urban environment and provisioning system is very, very important. So one thing we can agree, the design of urban environment needs to change. We need to have a better designing. It's very important, or else it's going to be really, really tough. And what is this provisioning system? Provisioning system simply means it's food, energy, transportation, housing, green infrastructure, water, waste management, fundamental to human health, well-being, and equity. So these are all the concept called provisioning systems. Like the word provisioning means we need that thing. I think you got this point. Provisioning means we need that thing. And definitely you know that inequalities in provisioning system. Urban provisioning systems are of the British times. It's influenced by the British times, and it exacerbates the social inequalities by class. So don't you agree? Are you agreeing with me that even food, energy, transportation, housing, green infrastructure, the access to all this is actually linked to inequality, like class, race, age, migrant status, and disability. So all this is again creating a lot of inequality. So on top of, you can see you do not have a proper you have the challenges of urbanization, you have the problem of health, and on top of that you have the problem of inequality also. So one more thing is something the article talks about. When you create a policy, like imagine that you're creating a policy, what all things should be remembered while creating a policy like this? In order to create a policy, what all things should you remember? Number one, you should remember the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So SDG. When you create a policy, please find out, if you do not know, find out what are the Sustainable Development Goals, and the new urban agenda, and health. These are the important things that you should remember while making a policy itself. Rather than creating policies, these things should also be included in the policies. Very, very important point that you should understand. And what is double or triple duty action? Where should we invest? The most important thing, as a country, as a nation, as a government, where should we invest? Taking into this problem, we should invest in clean energy, number one, electrical mobility, number two, and improve the health, number three, reduce air pollution, number four, address climate and equity goals, number five. So five important things: energy, EV, and health, air pollution reduction, climate. So these are the important investments. And some changes in provisioning system. You know what is provisioning system, such as we need to create, again, these are the 5 points. And again, in the provisioning system, point number 6, safe walking and biking lanes for cycles. And again, that is number 6. And you can see again the 6 points. So 6 points in investment. That means investments in 6 important areas are important. And definitely biking and walking are very important in creating policies, because biking means cycling is really good. So and also something that you should know, we should have again investments in all this area, and we should promote healthy diets, physical activity, or else low health means your health is very low. So you need healthy diets, physical activity, clean energy are powerful interventions to enhance public health. So the public health, we need to have a holistic urban policy. So when you have an urban policy, what all things will you remember in this mind? Not only regarding the challenges, you should know what are the challenges, and you should take into consideration the health. These are the important holistic urban policy. Let's draw it. Number one, the holistic urban policy, you can understand, you should work on the environmental aspects, you should work on the health aspects, You should work on the diet aspect. You should work on the infrastructure, the green infrastructure aspect. So I think a lot of things are actually connected with urban policy. Remember that. And yes, we need to enhance public health, and unhealthy diets reduce physical activity, air pollution pose greater health in Indian cities, you know that. And including, we need to control drugs, tobacco, alcohol, accidents, and cardiovascular disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes. These are all the important problems. So you must have read about cardiometabolic disease. What do you mean by that? It refers to health issues like heart disease, diabetes, which are prevalent in urban India due to factors like limited physical activity and unhealthy lifestyle. So simply, due to physical lack of limited physical activity and unhealthy lifestyle, something that causes heart rate and diabetes is the cardiometabolic disease. So we need to be overcoming all these factors. So let's take the questions. What are some of the major health risks faced by urban inhabitants in India? How do the risks relate to cardiometabolic disease? Number one, how can urban provisioning systems impact social inequalities and health outcomes in Indian cities? Why is a new narrative needed for improving urban health? Very important. And what are double or triple duty actions in the context of improving urban health? Why is active transportation considered a very critical component of clean energy? I think you can easily answer all these three questions. Okay, let's quickly move on to one more important article, very important. The legality of using white phosphorus. Very important from GS paper 2 perspectives and GS paper 3. Again, science and technology, and and again GS paper 2 health, international relations, health, and even science and technology. What are the technological aspects for that in international relationship? So again, this is again, I'll tell you the summary and the story very quickly. What we are going to do here is, you know that at this time you have Israel and Palestine here. You have Israel and Palestine here. And during this war, what happens is, many times there has been news that Israel has been using white phosphorus. White phosphorus, which according to many international theories is not supposed to be used. You should not use white phosphorus. So what are you, in this article we should know what do you mean by white phosphorus, and what are the important challenges, uh, what are the important defects of what are the important defects of white phosphorus? What are the defects of white phosphorus? And also you can see what is CWC, and what are some of the protocols of the international world which is actually concerning regarding the arms, munitions, like warfare, etc. What are some of the treaties relating to this? And you will see that some of the important treaties do not cover the use of white phosphorus. So you cannot, and this white phosphorus, creates a lot of big time problems for the common people. The burns that they get, it's very dangerous. So many of the international treaties, why are they not covering white phosphorus? So they should cover this white phosphorus in those treaties, and make sure that they are not, white phosphorus is not completely used in the warfare. So this is it quickly. So let's check the filter, and let's get the important points here. So accusations of white phosphorus in Gaza. So the Human Rights Watch, please find out, all the people listening, please just take some time to Google and find out what is Human Rights Watch. You can expect such questions in the prelims. So has accused Israel of using white phosphorus munitions in Gaza, raising the risk of civilians. And you can see in even 2008-9, the Israeli Defense Force, or IDF, was supposedly using white phosphorus, and it has actually created a big time issue. And what are the other important challenges? Please check. It is also called, in the pictures you can see, this is the white phosphorus that you can see. And white phosphorus is also called as WP. It's a chemical compound of phosphorus in the form of waxy, translucent, white or yellowish white solid. Very, very important. It is highly proactive and a very flammable substance, and it's got civilian as well as military applications. So WP or white phosphorus. So please do understand. And so a lot of precautions should be taken, and internationally everybody is asking for investigations whether Israel has violated international humanitarian law. like when they used white phosphorus. So what are the military and the incendiary devices? The incendiary devices, you can see the incendiary devices and intense fires. It can create smoke screens, just like in the last picture you must have seen. They can create smoke screens, which are dangerous, and they can create smoke screens, and they can be used as incendiary devices, intense fires. So it can create, severe burns and sufferings. That is the most important things among the people. And also check in there is international law. You can see international law has imposed restrictions on the use of incendiary weapons, including white phosphorus, to protect civilians. And as I said, it includes principles, three important principles. Please include the international law is actually upholding three important principles of distinction, proportionality, and prohibition of indiscriminate attacks. So definitely, this is an indiscriminate attacks. What using of white phosphorus is an discriminate attack, definitely. So you can see what is CWC. Let's The Chemicals Weapons Convention is a multilateral treaty that aims to eliminate what? Production, stockpiling, and use of chemical weapons and their precursors. So CWC is an international treaty that is allowing do not use the do not produce or do not stockpile, do not stock it, or do not use the chemical weapons and their precursors, as adopted in 1993 and came in 1997. It also prohibits the use of toxic chemicals for military purpose and requires the destruction of. They say if you do not use it for the military purpose, if you already have a batch of stocks, please destroy it. You should destroy the stock also. So what happens is there is something called a protocol 3, which deals with the incendiary devices, which actually is actually created to create fire or cause burn injuries. So the biggest problem is protocol 3 is very important. You can check in this article is that the white phosphorus is sometimes used as an incendiary weapon, is and not for chemical, is not covered by the CWC. Very, very important thing. So what we have discussed here is chemical weapons. It is asking to stop the production, stockpiling, and use of this toxic chemicals. So what happens is protocol 3 has got certain exemptions for some munitions. They've exempted some type of incendiary weapons under circumstances conditions, like you can actually illuminate certain things, can illuminate and use as tracers. So you can use it in special condition. If you have seen sometimes to create smoke screens and illuminations, you can use that. And protocol 3 has exempted that. Just look at the picture like this. Majority of the things are covered in protocol 3. This is the cover, but certain things like 1, 2, 3, certain things are exempted. That means they are not included in the protocol 3 of the CWC. Why? Because they can be used under certain conditions. But that is the reason why when you see white phosphorus is not covered in the CWC. So it's big time that we should strengthen the protocol 3 of the CWC, because that is very, very important, because it has got legal consequences, and we should adopt to the international law. And it's also important for the civilians as well as for the environment. So let's strengthen the protocol 3 and prevent exploitation of legal loopholes. So this is the concept of white phosphorus. So please remember what is CWC. Okay, so these are the questions that we already discussed. So now quickly moving on to the last article, and let's take up GS paper 2 international relationship and also something relating to the economy. We do not have to understand, Palestine-Israel problem. We just have to take the most important statistics. The article talks about few statistics, and you will clearly understand one very important point that in this context, let me give you the story here. The Israel and Palestine is one here. So what happens is, what about the Palestine economy? What about the Palestine employment? What about the exports and imports of Palestine? So what about electricity? What about water? You should all understand that everything regarding all the things that I've drawn here, electricity, water, economy, unemployed, the employment rate, everything. Palestine is heavily dependent on Israel. Very, very important point. So, whatever things that I've told you, Palestine depends on Israel. So, when there is even conflict, Israel is actually supplying this to the Palestinian people. So, let's take the important economy of that. So, after the conflict, Palestine is not supplying, Israel is not helping Palestine also. Let's apply the IS filter. Let's get the statistics very quickly. So Palestinians heavily depend on Israel for employment. So number one point, even for employment, they depend on that. And water, electricity, everything is actually dependent on Israel. Israel dependent on that. And what else? And you know that Palestinian territory is some of the lowest employment rates globally. You see that more than 50% of the people in Palestine, they do not have employment at all. They no money at all. And in the last article, last class, we discussed that Palestine depends mostly on the international aid or international funding. And with high unemployment in Palestine. So many Palestinians who are employed work in Israel or its settlements, and you can see the income of Palestinian workers in Israel contributes significantly to the West Bank's GDP. The income of Palestinian people working in Israel contributes to the GDP. Only few people work. So many employed Palestinians are underpaid. Again, a proper payment is also something that you have to discuss. Majority of them are highly underpaid, with 83% of workers in Gaza earning less than minimum wage in 2021. So just three, almost 80 plus people who are, most of the people, more than 50% of the population do not have jobs, and only on 50% of the people have jobs. And out of that 50%, 80% of the people who get jobs do not get proper payment. This is really concerning. Palestinian people do not get that money. That is something concerning. And just see, in Gaza, 80% of the population depends on international assistance. Again, I'm repeating this point. So you should know that Palestinian territory's GDP has grown slowly in recent decades. Palestine's GDP is increasing, but Israel's GDP has rapid growth. Obviously, Israel is a much more better and bigger player. And the most problem is heavy reliance on Israel and economic restrictions. So Palestine's GDP is not increasing because it is dependent on Israel. It is completely dependent on Israel. So how will it rise? And usually electricity, water, fuel, everything, Israel supplies everything. And even water import, just imagine, water imports from Israel are costly. You import everything. You import petroleum, you import oil, natural gas, costly items, but Palestine has to import water from Israel, and you have to give a lot of money for that. And again, you should know, as I've said, over 50% of imports to the Palestinian territories come from Israel. Very, very important. So half of what Palestine is getting comes from Israel, and 80% of what is being created in Palestine goes to Israel. I think you got this. This is Israel and this is Palestine. So 50% of what Palestine, 50% of the imports, 50% of what is actually using in Palestine comes from Israel, like this. Israel supplies 50% of that. And whatever you create in Palestine goes to Israel. 80%, more than 80% of what you create in Palestine goes to Israel. So I think, and you know, 4 in 8, you do not have money. Palestine does not have the proper money. So Palestine is heavily reliant on international assistance. You expect international foreign funding. And you should see that in 2021, the foreign aid only got 1.8% of Palestinian GDP. So recently, the foreign funding to Palestine has also decreased. Previously, in 2008, it was 27% of GDP was actually international funding, but from 27, it has decreased to 1.8%. So that much of international funding has also come down. And also, you can see, if you look at the Palestinian territories on the entry and exit points, there are highways and entry points, permit points, where you can see this is controlled by Israel. So whatever things needs to go inside this is actually controlled by Israel, and whatever things needs to go out. So entry and exit points are completely controlled by Israel. So that happens. This is leading to a permit regime. You need a permit to go inside. You need a permit to go inside this. So this is again destroying the economy of Palestine. So these are all the important contents that we have to discuss. So I hope you understood the points. So please do subscribe to our channel, and please revise it again and try to answer it in a better way.